one of those beautiful fall days. So warm. It's been so delightful. And today we're going to be making a pepper steak using soy curls. And I wanted to use the last of the peppers from the garden. Even though it's been warm, my garden's in a cold spot, so it did freeze. And so we are going to be gathering the last of them. And here's the garden. Let me turn this around. Looking like it's done for sure. One fun thing is the pumpkins, of course. When the frost comes, all the pumpkins, you can see them, and they're just so fun. The grandkids will come gather them for Halloween. These are my favorite, these Cinderella ones. Ooh, too much shade. Look how pretty the color is of those. You can see those over there. Love it. They're almost pink. Anyway, not real pretty hair anymore, but we do have still some things we can harvest and enjoy. So let's get to it. Just had to show you, it's these ones that are hidden down underneath. A lot of years I cover the peppers, but this year the frost snuck up on me. My garden is in a cold spot. Look how pretty those are. Beautiful. My garden's in a cold spot, so it gets nailed before, it's so pretty, before the neighbors' gardens. Boy, that plant had a bunch of good ones. Look at that. Whew, that's beautiful. I'm gonna make the pepper steak, but I love peppers. I'll be eating these like apples. That's one of my favorite snacks. I'm kind of in the minority in that one. Most people, even who like peppers, don't love that. And so I get that, but I'm also going to make salsa today, which is awesome. So fresh salsa, the last batch of that. And so let's go in and get started. Okay, a lot of the peppers did get frozen, but we got that many from the remaining plants. Some of them are even starting to turn red. So I'm so happy. Usually a frost is hard enough that even the fruit will be damaged and we can't use them, but thankfully we have a bunch to use today. Let's start with the soy curls first. This is going to be the protein part of the dish. So these are what the Butler soy curls look like. A lot of you are familiar with them. They're so awesome. They are just so versatile. We use them a lot. So one thing about the soy curls that we strictly adhere to, and that is we never soak them for longer than 7 minutes. So I'm going to put some, this recipe calls for a pound of strip steak, but we're obviously using soy curls instead. So this is actually 4 cups of the Butler soy curls. And I'm going to go ahead and put the water on. I just wanted to do this where you could see it. Just submerge it in water so that they're covered, and then let it sit for 7 minutes only, and then we'll promptly drain it. Okay, our timer went off, so I'm just going to go ahead and drain these quickly. Okay, and you can press some of the water out of them. Just use your hands like that. Whew. Okay, so this is what they look like. Oops, let me dry my hands there. Sorry, not a very graceful cook. Anyway, that's what they look like once they've been refreshed. Now for this recipe, we're going to use I'm doubling the recipe as usual because I love leftovers, because it means I get to cook less. So we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of paprika to kind of coat the soy curls. And then it also calls for garlic, and of course I'm using the minced jarred garlic again because I don't love cooking. So I usually use a half a teaspoon for a clove. So this one calls for 4 cloves of garlic. So I'm just going to put that in there. Okay. And then we're going to stir that up just to coat those soy curls. Hope you can see all right. The lighting's kind of wonky with the sun streaming through the window there. But there you can see. And then we're just going to let those sit for a bit while we finish slicing up our vegetables. There's what that looks like. Okay, we've relocated because of the light. So sorry for that bad light in the beginning of the video. But here's the rest of our vegetables. I realize I should probably showed you the onion before I cut it up, but we'll be using 2 cups of onion since we're doubling the recipe. That's about 1 medium onion, so I just chopped that up. And then we're going to use 4 peppers. I like to use half red, half green for color. I love the color contrast. And then a couple of tomatoes, and I like to think of this as the secret weapon. A lot of pepper steak recipes, I've never seen one that called for tomatoes. This was my sister's idea to throw in tomato for we just chop it and put it in, and it adds an extra zing to the recipe. So this is a really good recipe, and I like to think that the tomatoes is one of them. So these are garden fresh as well, and we'll go ahead and get these cut up. Okay, now we just need to throw everything together. So I've preheated this pan on medium heat, and here we have the soy curls after they've been sitting for a bit in the paprika and the garlic. And I'm not going to put oil in the pan. The recipe calls for it, but we don't need it. We're just going to kind of sear it a little bit. So I'll just dump that in the pan. There's some moisture in it from the water that we put back into it. If we were using real steak, we would be browning the steak at this point, but we're just going to sear this a little with the paprika and the garlic to get it to get the flavors to really, sink into the soy curls. If you haven't used soy curls before, they're just magic because they so quickly soak in the flavors that you want it to have. So they play a really happy role in whole food plant-based cooking because they're very minimally processed, but they really blend well with whatever flavors you want it to have, whether it's Southwest flavors or Asian or in this case, just a nice pepper steak flavor. So anyway, so we're just kind of letting that brown just a bit. Again, no oil required. And then typically at this point, we're going to add the broth. And for the broth, I've got 4 cups of water. And then I'm going to use the Thrive vegetarian beef bouillon. I never use anything else, so I'm just going to quickly put in 4 teaspoons of that to turn this into beef broth. I've got a whisk right here, so I'll whisk that together. And in the original recipe, if this were real steak, we would have to simmer this for about 30 minutes to finish cooking the steak. But the soy curls don't need that extra cooking time. So we're just going to blend this in, and we do not have to simmer for 30 minutes. Yay for that. And then that paprika and that garlic is going to, I wish I could use better chef language. I can't think of chef language, but it's going to blend together with the flavors. I'll turn the heat up just a little to get this to a boil. And then as soon as I do that and the flavors have had a chance to blend together with the heat, we're going to add our vegetables. And remember, we have our red and green peppers and our onions and tomatoes. Just, such a pretty combo and so packed full of vegetables. This is just such a delicious dish and so simple. When you are trying to eat whole food plant-based, you're trying to keep your ingredient list small and the ingredients to be whole food. So that's exactly what we have here with this entire dish, starting with the minimally processed soy curls, which are a great protein, all the benefits of soy, and they even have fiber, which is something that other protein doesn't have. And then we just have our vegetables and our very clean, very amazing Thrive bouillon broth. And then we'll be finishing it with a little bit of cornstarch and some soy sauce. So that's it. That is the entire ingredient list. So this is starting to boil now. We're getting pretty close. I'm going to let it come up a little more to a simmer, so I'll just pause here so you don't have to sit and watch a pot boil, literally. We'll be right back. All right, we've got it just up to simmering, and we don't want to actually cook the soy curls very long, so we're just going to immediately put in the peppers and the onions. And dropped that one right on the ground. And probably the biggest mistake you can make with this recipe is overcooking the vegetables. You want them to just be just tender. Otherwise, they'll be a little bit limp and not quite as appealing. Oh my goodness. There we go. The smells already are amazing. As soon as those peppers hit that boiling broth, oh, so good. So I'm just getting these mixed in so that they can be under the broth there. Wow, it's a little harder than it seems. Okay, it's all these unruly little pepper strips there. Okay, there we go. So We're going to literally let them simmer here for 5 minutes. Sometimes I go a little bit longer than that, but mostly just want 5 minutes to tenderize the peppers, not too much. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. All right, these have been simmering for 5 minutes. I forgot to mention that I do cover them because then the peppers that are on top can kind of steam if they're not completely submerged in the broth. And so we have that perfect. You can feel, as I stir it, I can feel the tenderness of those pepper strips, but they're not limp. And then the smells coming from this pan are driving me crazy. Oh, the aroma is so delicious. So we're going to finish this off. And as the peppers tenderize, they add their own juices to the mix, and it's so good. So then we're going to finish with, this is just water, soy sauce, and cornstarch. Since we're doubling the recipe, we used a half a cup of water, a half a cup of soy sauce, and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. So I whisked it together here, and then we're just going to pour it in the pan. Got a little residue on the bottom there. Get that out. And stir it around. This will thicken it a little bit, but not too much. So it'll go nicely on the rice. You can see how that is. Oh, can you see this? Oh my gosh. This is really one of my favorite dishes. Okay, and then so we've got that mixed in, and the thickening is perfect. And then the last thing we'll do is put in the tomatoes, because we didn't want the tomatoes to cook down at all. We want them to keep their body and just be this nice, beautiful little accompaniment to the dish. So I'm putting, and as I said in the beginning, the tomatoes add this little tang and zing that just makes the peppers sing. So in my mind, this is the secret ingredient, and it is amazing. So there you have it. So wonderful. I'm gonna turn that off. I'm gonna actually get this really close so you can see how beautiful that is. And then we'll put it on a plate with some brown rice and give it a taste. Okay, here we have it plated up with some brown rice. Isn't that beautiful? I'll just take a bite with a pepper.